Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are going to lambaste the Bears and that piss poor effort that they put forward on Sunday Night Football. Also, we're going to talk a little Bulls and Blackhawks and whatever's happening with their COVID-filled seasons. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow at family-friendly, affordable prices. So head on over to Ice Hogs, get yourself a hat, jersey, tickets, and more. Christmas presents are coming. Stocking stuffers, under the tree, all kinds of goodness. And tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Whew, Alex.
You sound so you're like a volcano that is just ready to burst.
Just a goose fraba.
I don't think I've ever heard you this fired up before a show. And we've been doing this show since 2016. And outside of 2018, we've had very little to celebrate. And this being the most fired up, oh boy, this is going to be good.
Yeah, we talked about that. Like, listen, this team is terrible. They're not going anywhere. That I'm not going to allow them to be upset me. I'm just going to show up and I'm going to just watch the game as if it was two random teams, and I'm not going to get my blood pressure up. I'm not going to get worked up. And I'm like, okay, there's some good plays here. This first half, this is a good game. Bears
first
are winning.
First half was fun.
And then Matt Nagy opens his dumb, stupid mouth and somehow doesn't realize that there's two halves to this game. And just the wheels came off. And this is like something out of like Dumb and Dumber, where they're just cruising along in the van and they forgot to put the lug nuts on and the wheels just go off in four different directions and there are sparks flying all over down the expressway. And Matt Nagy's steering all crazy. And he's yelling to himself, turn into the spin, turn away from the spin. And he doesn't know what to do. And they're suddenly spinning in circles and sparks are everywhere. That is life with Matt Nagy coaching your team. And
it was last night was the epitome of Matt Nagy. I mean, it really was. This goes back to Kansas City. Remember that playoff game in Kansas City? He played the call when he called the plays. You remember that? And
the offense just screeched to a grinding halt. And there's a lot of things to criticize about this game but Matt Nagy, it is just, we're really having fun out there. There's two halves. This is Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, potentially the last time he's ever going to face you as a Packer. You think he's not coming out in the second half gunning for you? You mocked the discount double check. He was gunning for you and you made zero halftime adjustments. You made zero. None.
Yeah, I mean, how many times has this team failed to score in the third quarter over the past few years with Matt Nagy? I mean, it feels like they're probably I know they were like the worst third quarter scoring team in the league last year, but over the past 3 years, it's got to still be among the very bottom of it. But hey, at least you got a garbage time field goal.
Yeah, and I tweeted out like right when the second half started, something along the lines of, are the Bears going to score in the second half? Because you know why? I've seen this before. I am not Nostradamus. I'm not somebody that's just, oh, hey, he's a prognosticator. No, I am just very good at recognizing patterns. And I've seen this movie before. I know how it ends. And somebody tweeted out, "Oh, I guarantee that they're gonna score again in the second half," and they did. They got a garbage time field goal. 27 points in the first half, 3 garbage time points in the second half, and you lost 45-30.
And Sean, here's the thing. When they had the lead at halftime and a bunch of friends were texting me, I said the same thing to pretty much all of them. You know how this is going to go. You know what the second half is going to bring. Green Bay and Matt LaFleur is going to be like, okay, now we actually have to take this seriously. And then they were going to go off. And Sean, you knew when they got the ball to start the second half, Green Bay did, and they just sliced and diced you to death and scored like that. You knew it was over. You knew it was over.
You knew it was over when they had the ball on the drive at the end of the first half, and you were up, I think, was it 24-14?
Yeah, you're up by 10. Jakeem Grant just brought the kickoff back, or the punt return for the touchdown, and then they let him score on 3 plays.
Is when that happened, and the Bears had geared up. They were not going to give up any big plays. They were going to let them dink and dunk all the way down the field, and they threw a big play down the field. And Eddie Jackson finally hit somebody. It just happened to be his own teammate. And
yeah.
Once they scored that touchdown, I said to myself, well, this game is over.
I mean, yeah. I just,
it didn't matter that the Bears were able to score again in the first half.
No.
It didn't matter. So you went into halftime and you're up 27-21. Didn't matter. That 6 points is not anywhere near a big enough lead for a Matt Nagy led team against Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay.
It was a drop on a hot griddle, just gone with an instant. And again, everyone saw it coming. Everyone knew this was going to happen. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a good football team with a great quarterback against a bad football team with a quarterback who is still clearly not 100%.
No, he said after the game that it hurt every time he threw the ball.
You could tell the velocity and the zip was not on those throws, especially the pick six.
And I just want to point this out again. This was a game you were leading by a touchdown going into halftime, and your running backs rushed for 13 carries.
Dave Montgomery had 1 carry in the whole second half.
Why in the world are you not running the ball when you have the lead or it's a close game? Why? when you have 2 rookie tackles, one playing his first non-special team snaps ever in an NFL game, ever, and you've got an injured rookie quarterback. Why aren't you running the ball?
And you were getting really nice yardage by doing little dinks and dunks. I mean, look at the Jakeem Grant touchdown, not the punt return, but the actual touchdown pass that he caught. Look at some of the big chunks of yards you were able to pick up in the first half using a number of different guys, whether it was Bird, whether it was Grant, whether it was Montgomery. You were doing a really nice job of dinking and dunking a little bit, and you were able to move the ball and score some points. And then you're forcing everything in the second half because you have Matt Nagy in full panic mode. Now, to escalate this further, how the hell can you justify punting on 4th and inches in the situation that you're in?
Worse than that, like that's bad. Like that is bad. Is when you are down with 2 minutes left in the game. Why are you kicking a field goal?
Seriously.
Why are you kicking a field goal? He is such a coward coach. He's a coward.
Go for the end zone. Go for the end zone and try to get an onside kick.
And, like the one thing I can say is most of the team hasn't quit. There's one huge exception that we'll get to in a minute because I've got some fire for him. But most of the team has not quit. I will give Matt Nagy some credit for that. They haven't quit on him, but they clearly don't know what they're doing. Like Khalil Herbert, he gets the onside kick and then he takes it in for the end zone. Why in the world doesn't he know that you can't advance that?
Yeah. It's a dumb rule, but yeah, it is a rule. You got to know the rules.
Yeah, you're right. It is absolutely a dumb rule. Like they said it during the game or the broadcast team. Like I fully agree. Buffed punts, agree. You shouldn't be able to advance those. Onside kick, you should be able to advance that.
It's technically a kickoff, right? You're just aligning a little differently.
Yeah. And I just like, why are you punting on 4th down? Why are you kicking a field goal when you're down by, I don't know, whatever you were down by 11 at that point, 14, 15. I don't know. You were down by enough where you needed a touchdown. So why aren't you going for touchdowns?
And why are you running Wildcats in the NFL?
I am so tired of their Wildcats. I'm so tired of them.
That's college football stuff. You don't do that in the National Football League. And the funny thing about that is as bad as those Wildcats were, I can at least say in the first half, the play calling wasn't as bad. It wasn't as bad in the first half. You had a lead for a reason. I get it. Special teams was a big contributor of that, but still the play calling was working in the first half. And then it just in the second half.
Green Bay, like the Bears do not have a good special teams. Like they are. Green Bay's special teams is dog shit. How do you plan to win a Super Bowl with special teams that bad?
I'll just have Aaron Rodgers and the defense do the rest, I guess.
But the defense isn't that good. Like there's got a lot of injured people. They're just going up against the Matt Nagy offense put up 27 on them in the first half. That defense is not good.
I mean, I'll say this about Green Bay's defense. On the score sheet, they're going to say they had 3 takeaways, but I mean, that was really kind of the Bears just giving the ball away.
I mean, the pick six, they baited Justin Fields into that. That was a rookie bad mistake.
Which, you know what? Those are some of the things we can excuse because he's a rookie.
Yeah. I'm like I said it before, I'm going to say it again. I'm not going to criticize Justin Fields until he has a real coach.
There are things I think I can be a little, not exactly critical of, but identify that he needs to work with. Yeah, there are times he needs to read a defense a little better. Yes, there are times he hangs onto the ball too long and he's got to secure it better. But, those are just things you're identifying to fix. I'm not like a bunch of people are starting to say, oh, he's a bust, he sucks, blah, 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 get him out of here. I am not willing to do that while he's playing on this team in this situation. How come Justin Fields is labeled a bust and yet Trevor Lawrence is getting all the passes of the world? He's not doing well, and it's not necessarily all his fault either. He's in a garbage situation. Look at Zach Wilson on the Jets. He's in a garbage situation too. You can't write the three of these guys off just yet. And we can say over and over how many great quarterbacks had mediocre, bad rookie seasons. Look at Peyton Manning. Look at Troy Aikman. You know, I am not writing off Justin Fields yet. Neither should you. If we see this under a new regime, then yes, I will be concerned. Am I concerned that the Bears are just going to ruin him and that it's not his fault? Of course, but that is more sins of the Bears, not Justin Fields.
You know, it's funny because people will be like, oh, you know, the Bears, you know, should have drafted Mac Jones. Mac Jones is doing so good this year. No, the Patriots have the best defense in football. They have arguably the best coach in the history of football, and they put him in a position to win. Case in point, last week on Monday Night Football, they faced the Buffalo Bills. It was very windy. Mac Jones attempted 3 passes.
Three.
His stat sheet was he completed 2 passes for 19 yards.
Mac Jones isn't going out there and putting up studly numbers because he's making the plays and he's doing it all himself. This is literally Bill Belichick's scheme just being put into it. He's simply a cog in the machine. And I said this after he was drafted. I said Mac Jones is a perfect fit for New England and Bill Belichick. A perfect fit.
I think Justin Fields would have been a great fit too, because you saw Bill Belichick was able to do with Cam Newton last year. And I think Justin Fields at this point is a better quarterback than Cam Newton because of just Cam Newton is older and just body is beat up. Justin Fields, I think he would have excelled there too. But Bill Belichick puts players in a position to win. With those 40-mile-an-hour winds, Matt Nagy would have thrown the ball 38 times. Like he would have gone out there and just winging it. And then people think, oh my God, this Justin Fields terrible. And nope. It just, you need a coach that's not a mongoloid. And Matt Nagy is a mongoloid. Like I don't care anymore. Is Matt Nagy has to realize he's terrible. And I don't know why he just doesn't resign. Go to them, be like, listen, I know you're going to fire me. You know you're going to fire me. Let's just take the Band-Aid off. I would have much more respect if he did that, but he doesn't. He goes out there and you know what? He's going to find out the whys.
What got me was hearing him say, oh yeah, you know, the 4th and inches. I look back and I'm like, oh man, we really should have gone for that. It's like, are you kidding me?
And you know what is, you know, there's some limitations there. Like Ryan Pace is terrible too. And Ryan Pace put together a team and said, win with this team where you have Jalen Johnson and just a handful of random ass guys that I found at the Y. Like that is the defensive backs you've got there.
It's really hard for a coach like Matt Nagy to win when your secondaries, like you said, guys from the YMCA. It really is. I mean, that secondary on the Chicago Bears defense is not built to stop the elite of Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. Those two just bullied you in the second half. Absolutely bullied you.
Absolutely. And, you know, they made you look silly. And, you know, you can't, like Jalen Johnson did a pretty darn good job against Davante Adams. When they put Davante in the slot, he sort of abused Jalen Johnson. And that's a different animal, is being able to play the slot, especially against a guy like Davante Adams. But on the outside, he did a good job. And there was the one touchdown, and they put a double team on him rather than put Jalen Johnson in the double team with Eddie Jackson. And I don't even remember who the corner was. How was it? Marquis Christian? I don't remember. And he just split the double team, caught the touchdown, and Eddie Jackson ended up clobbering the cornerback. He put together this terrible team. Ryan Pace at the start of, in the offseason said, I'm going to cut both tackles. Listen, both tackles needed to be upgraded. And I understand you went out and you got Larry Borum and Larry Borum was not part of the plan. I'm going to say that he's turned into part of the plan. And I think he's got a very strong future ahead of him. And I think they need to flip-flop those two tackles. I think Tevin Jenkins needs to be on the right side, Larry Borum on the left, but that'll be an off-season move. But that's neither here nor there. But he was going to upgrade the right side with Jermaine Ifedi and the left side, Tevin Jenkins. That was his plan. Cut both of his starting offensive tackles. And Jermaine Ifedi has been terrible. And you end up having to put Larry Borum over there. And then you're left with, I think Ifedi got hurt too. But you were just like, all right, well, we don't have anybody else. You had to sign Jason Peters off the street. And sure, there's some times where he looks like he's 40 years old. But for the most part, he's been far and away your best offensive lineman. And you sort of lucked out. I hate saying he saved the Bears because they're in a terrible position, but they would have been in a far worse position had they not gotten Jason Peters. So, you really lucked into what you had as, for the last several games, you've actually, not the Packers game, but prior to that, you've actually had some pretty solid tackle play because Larry Borum is shaping up to be pretty solid. And Jason Peters is Hall of Fame caliber. And you lucked into that. So I don't know what else to say here about Ryan Pace. No defensive backs. He botched putting together the offensive line. There's very little talent on, as offensive players. You screwed the pooch with your tight end play because the tight end you drafted out of Notre Dame, Cole Kmet, doesn't look very good.
I'm really disappointed in that. Can I just say, because I thought, hey, you know what? He wouldn't have been my first choice in the second round a few years ago, but he could be something. It has been really damn disappointing so far. Go out and watch Rob Gronkowski. Look what that guy can do. Look what George Kittle could do.
Yeah, I don't want Cole Kmet watching anybody. I want him to sit after practice with a ball machine and catch balls for 6 hours a day.
No, fair enough.
Just catch them. Just catch the ball.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's bad enough that he gets no separation. That man, you need like some sort of calipers to measure how much separation he's able to get from.
It reminds me of Kellen Davis.
Yeah, he's just bad. And you traipse out the corpse of Jimmy Graham. So you didn't upgrade your tight end position. There's not a ton of talent. There's speed, but there's not a lot of talent in the wide receiver position. You botched the offensive line. You botched the defensive backs. What is going on? Matt Nagy has sucked, but Ryan Pace has sucked too. And you know what? George McCaskey has sucked the most because and here's the thing. If he doesn't fire Ryan Pace when he fires Matt Nagy, he's an absolute idiot too, because you know what? He sold us on the collaboration that was happening. And what's he going to say then? That it was Matt Nagy that wasn't collaborating anymore and Ryan Pace was doing the collaborating? You sold us that they were linked, that there was this bond. They were collaborating. They were a tandem. You tied their fates together, George McCaskey. So if you fire Matt Nagy and you don't fire Ryan Pace, then you suck at your job and you should be fired. Just go back to owning the team. Virginia should fire you and replace you with somebody that's not a nincompoop.
I'm just thinking about Virginia firing George. She's in her big fur coat in like the suite at Soldier Field, calls her up.
Cruella McCaskey just with her big 101 Dalmatian coat.
Oh man, it'll be like Bar Rescue or something. Like you'll have someone whispering in her ear, "All right, Virginia, you gotta just rip the Band-Aid off. You gotta let him go. Son, it's time for you to retire your post."
She's like, see my vest made out of my son, George McCaskey.
See this hat, 'twas my cat.
Oh my God.
Oh man. Okay. I want to give you a stat. I want to give you a stat right now because we feel like we go through this every few years. The Bears suck. We hear about how Virginia's pissed off, blah, 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 blah. We see George and Ted address the media. Probably the most famous instance of being pissed off was probably 2014 with Trestman, right? We all remember that.
Yes. Unfortunately.
So ever since then, ever since that firing, that press conference, the Bears are 48-63, averaging 20 points per game.
That's terrible.
And now they're about to go through their third coach because they got rid of Trestman. They hired John Fox. They fired him. They hired Nagy. They're going to fire Nagy, and now they're going to bring in somebody else.
What are the odds they actually... We're hearing the rumblings. Jason La Canfora, who you sort of take what he says with a grain of salt, but
more than one grain of salt.
But he's reporting it. Retired Bears players are reporting it that they're hearing that there's going to be a change in the structure of the football operations for the Chicago Bears. So do you think there will be a structure change where there's a firewall, there's between Ding Dong George and Ding Dong Ted, there's a firewall.
And that's what they're hearing in the reports too. They're being referred to as Ding Dong George and Ding Dong Ted.
That's really what his mom put on the birth certificate.
Ding Dong George.
That's his first name. George is his middle name. He's Ding Dong George McCaskey.
DD George McCaskey. What does the DD stand for?
He's like, you don't want to know. Oh, I absolutely want to know. Ding dong. My mom had low expectations.
Ding dong.
Oh. He just shows up at school. They're doing the attendance on day one. Like, Ding Dong McCaskey. Here, I prefer George.
Please call me George. My mother named me Ding Dong. I don't know why.
she didn't have high expectations of me. She kept saying a fortune teller was saying something about Matt Nagy, and so I had to be named Ding Dong.
The fortune teller was foreseeing this Canadian Football League guy, and then this bald man with a visor. So I had to go with this name.
Something about collaboration. So I got to be Ding Dong now.
And then some robot we hired to be general manager.
Oh my God. But what are the odds that they actually have this new structure where they have somebody above a GM that they bring in, and that person then hires the GM and is in charge of hiring and firing the GM and then the head coach, sort of like the Bulls did with Arturas Karnisovas. Like, what are the odds that the Bears do something like that, which would be a smart move?
I feel like they very well could go that route. I'm not saying they're going to do it right, but I do think that they could go that route. I mean, look, how many times over the past few years have we, or at least I should say the past few hirings and firings, whatever, we've seen the Bears seek information and advice from other teams, outlets, people, whatever. We've seen that a lot, right? So, you're seeing that kind of structure being put in place, as you said, not just in football, but in other sports here in the city. You mentioned Arturas Karnisovas. Look at the Cubs. They had Theo Epstein and then Jed Hoyer underneath. Now you have Jed Hoyer and Carter Hawkins underneath. I don't know how much they're looking at that per se, but I do feel like that maybe they think, hey, other teams are having success by putting in these types of structures. Maybe we should put that in there. So I do think it is very possible. I don't know if they're going to do it right, but I do think that it's very possible we do see a structure like that. And I mean, the way I see it is it's everything just seems over. Like Matt Nagy is as good as gone. A few weeks ago, I would have said, I think Ryan Pace is still safe. I'm starting to doubt his safety too. And I'm not saying that a few weeks ago, I thought Ryan Pace was the right guy for the job. I just think about Ding Dong George and the way they think. But when you get clowned once again by your biggest rival and the I still own you jokes are being said every second of every day by every media outlet on this planet, then, maybe I'm actually feeling a bit more confident that they realize we need a full restructuring here. So I do think it is very possible we see that.
I don't have faith that Ding Dong George can get out of his own way and do the right thing. I just have the feeling that Ryan Pace will fail up and they'll make him that person. And then he'll hire a general manager and then he'll hire a coach. And that somehow it's going to work.
I can totally see that.
Like, I think Ryan Pace will be the general manager come the end of the season. No, but I think he might even get promoted. It'll be a Stan Bowman situation.
Yeah. I mean, I could see that too. Honestly, when I put my mind optimistically, I think it's going to clean house. They're going to restructure. When I think realistically, I think that they're going to keep doing a lot of what they're doing, and restructuring would just be finding a way to promote Ryan Pace. But, at the end of the day, I feel like we're definitely looking at some sort of changes, definitely at the coaching spot and definitely in the front office. It's just a matter of who sticks around and who doesn't. And mainly that is Ryan Pace. I mean, I could definitely see them doing that. I don't want them to do it, but I could definitely see them doing it.
And the most Bearsy thing I've heard is, again, this came from Jason LaCanfora, is that the Bears approached former Bear Trace Armstrong about taking that position.
Didn't he deny that though?
He denied it, but I'm just saying it would be the most Bearsy thing to do is to go talk to the agent of your current head coach about taking on a role where he's going to get fired. So you're going to make him fire his client. That is literally the most Bearsy thing that I could imagine happening. Like it's a bunch of like, I just want to videotape what they do all day and then play the Benny Hill music over it, because that's really the only way any of it makes sense. Like, Like somebody's just watching what they're doing and like this doesn't make any sense. And like, watch it now. And yeah. Oh, now it makes sense. Like, it is just clown shoes.
Ding Dong George is gonna be a reality show.
This George has to do dumb shit. Hey George, you put him in a round room and you tell him to pee in the corner and you just watch him agonize. Well, that's not a corner. That's not a corner. Dumb. Back to this game. I've been saving this. Is Allen Robinson. A few years ago, we made him our prized free agent. And after a period of where we had an absolute travesty of a wide receiver core.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the list of wide receivers we had was atrocious. And we brought in Allen Robinson and it made everything better because he was a true number one receiver.
Mm-hmm.
But this year, I don't know what went on behind the scenes because the Bears are not forthright. And I feel like Allen Robinson and his agent are crazy. So do I trust liars or crazy? And I feel like there's no good way for me to fully understand what happened with the contract negotiations for an extension for Allen Robinson. But whatever happened, they signed him to the franchise, or they stuck him with the franchise tag. He's playing for $20 million this season, and he wants to be paid $20 million going forward. Like he wants to be a $20 million wide receiver. And this season, he has been absolutely dreadful. Just absolutely dreadful. And he's been out a bunch. Let me just go through his stats this year. Against the Rams, 6 catches for 35 yards. Against the Bengals, 2 catches, 24 yards, and a touchdown. Cleveland, 2 catches, 27 yards. Detroit, 3 for 63. Las Vegas, 4 for 32. Green Bay, 4 for 53. Tampa Bay, 2 for 16. San Francisco, 3 for 21. Pittsburgh, 4 for 68. Then he didn't play for over a month. Then against Green Bay, 2 for 14. His season so far, 32 catches, 353 yards, 1 touchdown for $20 million. And the man against Green Bay gave 0 fucks.
And that's the problem. That's the problem because listen, I get it. If your head coach and your play scheme is not good and you're not getting opportunities to get passes downfield and do what you need to do as a number one wide receiver, that's one thing. But when you literally are actively not giving a fuck, when you are not jumping up for a pass that you could easily catch, when you are literally just avoiding a block on a quarterback run and just kind of wandering off to the sideline, not doing you saw that play, right?
It's funny. It's before it became the meme. I watched that and I'm just screaming. Why didn't he block? Why did he not block? He didn't. He just olayed the guy. That could have been a big run. If that would have been Hines Ward, and I know I'm dating myself. If that would have been Hines Ward would have buried that cornerback and his running back could have run for days. And Allen Robinson did not care. He's trying to stay healthy. for his next contract and whoever his next team is.
And you're not putting up the numbers to get a contract, buddy. If you're going to be lazy, you're not going to put up those numbers. You're just playing yourself out of a contract.
Absolutely. And I don't think he's smart enough to realize that. I think he really thinks he's going to get a big contract, and people are going to look, they are going to see, oh, look what he did when things weren't the way he wanted them to be. He was a petulant child. He sat out a bunch of games when he seemed healthy enough to play. And when he did play, he didn't care. He put up bad numbers. Why in the world would I pay that guy big money? He is not going to, he's going to get paid a lot of money, but it is going to be nowhere near the money that he thinks he's going to get.
And you can tell the fan base is fed up too. We were all saying extend Allen Robinson. We need to extend Allen Robinson. We were talking about it over and over. And now, it's quite the opposite. And again, I get why he would be frustrated at times, the Bears, with the way things have gone, with the quarterbacks he's played with the schemes he's been in. I get it. I get there's frustration there. But when you went out and you deleted all the Bears stuff on your Instagram and you made a big spectacle out of that, and you had all of that crap going on, it's just really childish, and it really wore out his welcome here. And loved watching him in 2018. Loved watching him. Heck, even in 2019, when things weren't going so well, he still put forth the effort. But remember last year? Even last year, we were starting to express our frustration with him catching the pass and not knowing where the fourth down marker is and costing you the game, where he's gone up on contested balls and letting them get intercepted. We started to express frustration last year.
Not putting his 2 feet in bounds because he's catching it with one leg up in the high in the air, and not getting it down in bounds. There was some frustrations, but you're like, okay, well, we don't have a lot of options.
And he was able to at times make up for it with his skill set.
Yeah,
but
it was times where you're like, yeah, all right, well, this sort of makes up for it. What has he done this year? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And the fact that if Matt Nagy does not bench him the rest of the time that he's here, then Matt Nagy's a bigger coward than I anticipated.
Ooh.
If I'm Matt Nagy, I know I'm getting fired anyway. I'm going to send a message, and Allen Robinson is inactive. He's not even active. He's not even dressed on game days.
He'll be in the press box with Ding Dong George.
He's holding the clipboard and handing out the Gatorade.
Okay, speaking of benching and whatnot, I got a question for you. And I'm going to have to, as I always do, make sure I explain my position on this, the reasoning for this. But here's my question. We've seen Justin Fields play injured, clearly not 100%. We've seen it now. And when he has a swollen hand and he says every throw hurt, and this is the most important asset you've ever had, and you know that Matt Nagy's system is going to do him absolutely no favors, would you be upset if the Bears said, you know what, we're just going to ride with Dalton and Foles the rest of the way?
Not at all. Not at all. And listen, I want to see Justin Fields, but I don't want to see him play for Matt Nagy ever again, because it's
a safety issue.
Yeah. You're already getting him beat up. Why in the world are you just trying to get him injured? It just doesn't make any sense. Let him just sit down the rest of the season. And I don't know what Dalton's status is, but Nick Foles can't be injured because he hasn't done anything yet.
Who cares about the last 4 games? Who cares?
Yeah, we already stink. It doesn't matter. It does not matter what in the world happens in those 4 games. Just don't get him hurt for next season. because what happens if it like a Joe Burrow and he tears an ACL at the last 4 games of the season, that you're letting Matt Nagy ruin next season, which would be such a Matt Nagy that he ruins the season of a team that he's not even coaching.
Next year, Matt Nagy's laugh will just be heard all around the crevices of Soldier Field.
Yeah. So you wind up the season with 2 games against the Vikings, Seahawks, and Giants. Like, who cares? Like, you're not making the playoffs. And just this is how wild this season in the NFL is. The Lions have not been mathematically eliminated.
I thought they were yesterday.
Oh, maybe they were yesterday. Going into yesterday, they were not mathematically eliminated. That's crazy. They were 1-10-1, and they still had a shot to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
But the Bears, like, I don't know what else to say. You're 4-9. Even if you win those next 4 games, you're 8-9. You're not making the playoffs. What's the point? What's the point? Is keep that kid healthy, play Dalton when he's healthy, and when he's not, play Foles. I'm there for it.
Yeah. So you got 2 more games against the Vikings, 1 against the Seahawks, 1 against the Giants. I mean, 4 meaningless games. I would really hate to see Justin Fields push it and, get injured on something really dumb. And I mean, I know you're going to risk injury no matter what playing in the NFL. And I know we all want to see him play. I know we want to see him get experience, but playing in Matt Nagy's system at this point, I think is just going to do more harm than good. When you got a swollen hand and still injured ribs, I don't want him out there. Well, I mean, I don't know what the forecast looks like for next Monday night, but could you imagine a cold, kind of damp Soldier Field in a game that means nothing when he's already feeling pain? I don't want him out there. Do you know how relieved I was that he wasn't out there during that Cardinals game with that weather when he was still injured?
Why in the world are the Bears playing the Vikings on Monday Night Football?
Flex that out.
I don't think they can flex Monday nights, but that's a terrible game for Monday night.
Yeah. Yeah. But I feel like every year those 2 teams play on national TV.
Just dumb. It's just dumb.
Yeah.
But I just, Tevin Jenkins. So Jason Peter got his ankle rolled up on, and Tevin Jenkins had to come in. And listen, I'm not going to shit all over Tevin Jenkins because it was 1 game and it was a tough spot to go in hostile territory in shitty weather against your rival opponent when, it's the hellstorm is coming, but it was not a good performance by Tevin Jenkins. There was some plays where he looked okay, but clearly is rusty, clearly needs to work against speed rushers, a little bit more practice against speed rushers. He's got to stop with the penalties, way too many penalties. It was just not a good night for Tevin Jenkins, and it wasn't not a very good night for Larry Borum either.
No, it wasn't.
It was definitely not a good night for Sam Mustipher. Like,
No.
and what's even better is that overhead camera. Whoever operates that overhead camera clearly hates Sam Mustafa because they just focused on Kenny Clark, stealing his lunch money every 2 seconds. It was ugly.
Yeah, that was bad. That was really, really bad.
Oh God. It was just overall a rough night. A bright spot is Grant looked good. And I've been saying that I absolutely despise him being your kickoff returner, but he's a pretty good punt returner. And I think he's a positive asset as a playmaker on your offense. And we saw that. And they put him into the places where you would otherwise see Tariq Cohen, and you got positive results. So
yeah,
that's a positive.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I think you're looking at a decent combo of Khalil Herbert at kickoff return and Grant at punt return. Not kickoff return, punt return. I liked Khalil Herbert kickoff return. We saw at the end of the first half, Green Bay scored, and then he helped them get to around midfield where they could kick a field goal. Obviously, didn't matter, but you get my point. Yeah, no, I mean, you've talked about Jakeem Grant before, and the more I see him, the more I warm up to him. The guy's got really good speed.
I mean, he only caught one pass yesterday and 3 targets, but that one was 46 yards for a touchdown. He had a couple of good punt returns, and I just think, you gave him a rush. I think that is important going forward, because who the hell knows what and when and if Tariq Cohen comes back. Like, I mean,
is he ever going to come back? I mean, honestly,
I don't know. It's been, I mean, it's an entire season and 9 games. So it's like a season and a half, and we have not heard hide nor hair from him. Like, I literally have no idea.
I forget he's even there sometimes.
Oh, I've completely forgotten. I have no idea like what his status is.
Nobody seems to.
And I think it's way too late for him to come back this season. So
yeah, no, I mean,
we
could write this off. Yeah.
So he missed almost the entirety of last season. I think he got hurt week 3, and then he'll miss the entirety of this season. So basically 2 seasons, and we haven't seen anything from him.
No.
So I just, it's nice to have the ability, or have a player that has the ability to make giant plays with his speed. I think that's big, and we've missed that a lot. Not taking anything away from David Montgomery or Khalil Herbert, but they're different types of players. And Jakeem Grant is electrifying with his speed, and you saw that when he gets a seam, and the Bears have missed that quite a bit.
Yeah, they have. That is nice to have, and I think that's something that you can say, hey, for the future, we can keep a guy like this around and be able to use him effectively, because he proved that you can be used effectively in those certain situations. The Bears don't have a lot of size, but having some nice blazing speed where you can do smaller trick plays and get some blocks. Other teams do it successfully. The Bears have to start doing that more too.
Right. But I mean, other than Grant, there was not a lot of of positivity. The play calling was terrible. The defensive schemes were terrible. The defensive play, for the most part, was terrible.
At least Robert Quinn showed up in the first half. That was fun.
Yeah, and then they schemed him away, and
which made no sense.
It's what's frustrating is the Green Bay Packers went into halftime and they made adjustments. They saw the way the game was going, and the Bears just don't. They just don't have the ability to adjust what they're doing.
Well, yeah, I mean, it kind of went the same way the first time against the Packers. The Bears got off to the quicker start. They scored first, and then it all went to shit.
Yeah, it's just infuriating. And all right, so you got 4 games left. Maybe they beat the Giants.
Yeah, Giants are kind of a train wreck.
And, who knows which Vikings teams show up? Is it the good Viking team? Is it the one that lost to the Lions? Like, which Vikings team shows up?
I don't know. I think Kirk Cousins is going to eat that secondary alive.
Probably. Honestly, I just don't care. Because I can't change the outcome. I just don't have the emotional energy to keep caring like I did yesterday. I just don't have it in me for these next 4 games. And any sort of positivity just makes me like absolutely cringe thinking about that George Ding Dong George might actually keep Nagy. Like, what if he does? Like, I was sure Nagy was getting fired last year, and they doubled down and were like, we're keeping him. He's a good collaborator. And now he's collaborating to find out the whys. And that's what we're here for. Is we're finding out the whys.
I am gonna look so stupid when they actually do ding dong things like they usually do. But I feel pretty confident that Nagy's gone. I think he's gone.
Until he's gone, he's not gone.
Which is fair.
It's the same thing with Aaron Rodgers. Is all offseason I heard he's not coming back. He's not coming back. All right, fine. He's going to come back this one season, but then they're going to let him go. And he can go wherever he wants. It won't be the Green Bay Packers. He's last season with the Packers. I don't think he's done with the Packers.
He's not done with the Packers. He's not done. I am telling you right now, he's not done.
He's going to stay. Devontae Adams is going to sign a big extension, and Aaron Rodgers is going to get an extension. And
3 more years. That's my prediction. He'll be there 3 more years after this year.
And that's what we're getting. And you're going to waste the entire career of Justin Fields, getting him killed with bad coaching decisions and not being able to beat Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, no, I've been saying to people all along, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going anywhere. He's going to act like nothing happened. Oh yeah, we worked it out, blah, blah, blah. Though I can't help but wonder, I know we don't want Green Bay to win a Super Bowl, but Green Bay winning a Super Bowl actually might incentivize Aaron Rodgers to leave. He can be like, all right, I came back. We restructured my deal. I got a Super Bowl again here. Now I can go elsewhere. Where I feel like if they don't win the Super Bowl, he's going to see it as, quote, unfinished business and then come back.
I see it the other way, to be honest, is if he wins it, he goes, I want to win again. And if he doesn't win it, he's going to be like, I'm going to go somewhere that gives me a better shot to win it.
Well, we both have different perspectives on that, but now.
And the guy is crazy enough that either one could be true.
Well, and that's the thing too. I mean, this Aaron Rodgers is such a freaking whack that you never know what he's thinking. I mean, 1 minute he legitimately looked like he wasn't going to show up for, it looked over the summer. It legitimately looked like at a point he's not coming back to Green Bay. And then next thing you know, oh, he's back. Oh, he's back, but he's checked out. Oh, he's back and he's back to normal now. Oh, he's immunized, but he's not vaccinated. I mean, you don't know what the hell's ever going on with this guy.
The only thing that's consistent is Chris Collinsworth wants to fillet him.
Yes.
If I'm Chris Collinsworth's wife, aren't you a little jealous the way he talks about a man? And I think he wanted to make out with the guy that looked like Aaron Rodgers that was in the stands.
Oh yeah, I saw that too. And here's another thing too about the whole situation in Green Bay is I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And the one ticket I think that the Packers would have said earlier, I would have thought this earlier, is that, Green Bay could have said, you know what? We're tired of your antics. Just help us get a Super Bowl this year, and then we're going to move on with Jordan Love. But then they saw Jordan Love in a game, and he was not very good.
Doo-doo sauce.
Right. He was doo-doo sauce, and, they might say, well, if he's going to win a Super Bowls, we'll put up with him. But at the end of the day, I'll believe Aaron Rodgers is gone when I see it. My prediction is he comes back on like some altered 3-year deal. That's how I see it. He's going to be there for 3 more years. That's my prediction.
Aaron Rodgers is like a Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers. It's like you think he's dead, and then you start slowly walking away and having a moment, and then the next thing you know, he sits bolt upright, and you're like, "Oh shit, here we go again." It's exactly what it is. Till that guy is done, he's not done.
No. He can be playing till he's 45, like Tom Brady.
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers, until he is signed with another team and he's out of the division and that contract has been approved by somebody else, and he has a press conference saying, I'm with this team, and they show his jersey number, and the NFL has updated the team has updated their depth chart. I'm not believing him.
Well, and here's the other thing too, is you talk about things that are consistent. You know what's been consistent with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers? All these off-season feuds and beefs and rumors of them not being happy with each other. We've been hearing that for years now, and nothing ever happens. He comes back, acts like nothing happens, and then puts on MVP performances. It's the same shit every year. It's not like this, sudden beef with the Packers that Rodgers apparently had this summer was anything new. This has been going on for years. It's the same shit every offseason. It just gets a little more spicier. But at the end of the day, nothing changes.
Old cranky pants Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, so I don't know. There's no reason for me to have any hope for the Bears. There really isn't.
None whatsoever. I ran into one of my neighbors when I was getting my daughter from school, and he listens to the podcast. He was like, I want to hear who you're thinking of for the next GM. And I've made a list, but I don't want to go through it today. I'm drained. I think maybe in a week or two we could talk potential replacements for Ryan Pace.
Let's talk about it after a game that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I don't have it in me. I actually sat down and made a list this afternoon, but I was just like, I can't go through this right now. I just, I'm going to go through this list. Well, I'm already fired up about things. And then, not only is it not going to come true because they don't fire Ryan Pace, it's just too much for me right now.
Tonight on Ding Dong George, Ryan Pace and George take on Chicago.
Oh, Ding Dong George. It's in the lineup right after Honey Boo Boo.
Man, I remember when that was a thing.
That's the other Bears show on the Bears Network. It's Ted Phillips as Honey Doo Doo. Uh,
Oh dear.
oh man.
But yeah, no, I think either after one of the Vikings games or the Seahawks game, whatever, I'll gladly talk about possible GM candidates. But I'm kind of with you. I'm not in that mental space to do it this week.
Yeah, it's too much for me. But I do want to talk quickly White Sox, a little bit of White Sox. Gary was very upset, and he thought I was too down on the White Sox. And I want to clarify where I am with the White Sox. I'm not down on the team. They're a very good team. I'm down on ownership for not spending the money to be a great team. That's my frustration. Is you just have to throw some money at the problem and fix it. And there was very limited, and namely with second base, there was very limited quality free agent options at second base. And you didn't go after them. And sure, maybe you could say that corner outfield left-handed power bat might be a bigger need, especially after you sign Larry Garcia. But those like outfield power bats, there's a lot of those, but there's not a lot of second basemen. And Larry Garcia is not an everyday option. He's just not on a winning team. And that's where my frustration is it's a good team and they have the potential to be a great team. And I think the problem is ownership is just not willing to part ways with some money to make it happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear they don't want to go over the luxury tax. And I still will contend that they will spend some if they do get a deal for Craig Kimbrell and get some of that money off the book. But here's the thing is that they're going to once the lockout is over and free agency resumes and all that, everything baseball activities can resume, the White Sox are going to really want to get on it because teams, I think, are going to be very aggressive coming out. We saw how aggressive other teams were at near the deadline of the CBA. Teams made moves. A lot of them were able to pick up some of the big free agents, and there are still some big free agents out there. But, if the White Sox are worried about having too much money being spent already with Craig Kimbrell, it's like, well, then, once this comes out, I'm not saying they can't do it. I think they can. If they find a trade partner and they start being aggressive, then they can go what they want. It's just, you got to get a move on that once that comes around, because I think other teams are going to be very aggressive.
So let's go on the assumption that you're going to try to flip Craig Kimbrell or some other parts to bring in a second baseman, because there's no other viable second base option on the free agent market.
No, there's trade options, but yeah, not on the free agent market.
Yeah, free agent market. You signed Larry Garcia, and at the time was your only option. You brought him back, and he's not a starter. So I just sort of went through, and the realistic, in any realm of realism, like ones where the option at second base is just terrible. I crossed that off because what's the point? And options where like they're, like you're not going to trade for Jose Altuve or something. So I made a list of what I thought were at least in the realm of realism options. Is the Mets, you could get Robinson Cano. Like that option is there. I don't know if it's a great option, but that does seem very White Soxy.
How old is he? 37?
He's old. Another option Colton Wong.
I don't think the Brewers are trading Colton Wong.
Maybe.
He was really a key for them last year. I don't see why they'd trade him.
David Fletcher from the Angels.
Maybe.
Mike Moustakas from Cincinnati.
I could see that. I think that's very possible.
Tony Kemp from Oakland.
I could see that. Wouldn't be that spectacular, but be something.
Gene Segura from Philadelphia. And Whit Merrifield from Kansas City. I don't think you're prime Whit Merrifield from Kansas City, but if you do, I think that would be a home run.
That would be great, but I don't see that happening.
In the division with Craig Kimbrell as your trade bait? I don't think so. And, outside of those, I also, another option that maybe, but I think is pretty far-fetched, is signing somebody to play third base and then moving Yoan Moncada to second base.
Yeah, I like him better at third.
I like him better at third too. I'm just saying is do you, like, I'm going to throw this out there. If you sign Chris Bryant to play third and Yoan Moncada at second, do you like that better than Larry Garcia at second? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I have a feeling that Moncada stays at third. But one more option. And I don't know the level of realisticness of this, but somebody that could be replaced, Gleyber Torres.
If the Yankees want to part with him, maybe.
I think they might. So those are really your only options for a trade. And some of them are, I don't know if they're how big of a step up they are. And some of them I think are a little, even though I think they are in the realm of possibility, they're just not a high possibility. If you get what I'm saying? Yeah.
No, I get that.
So I really do think that your options at second base are getting pretty slim.
I think
Gary
so too.
Gary spent a whole day arguing with me that it would be Gene Segura. I'm just not in love with that.
I don't like that either, but I could totally see it.
And it is the need at right field bigger or smaller than the need at second base?
I think second base is kind of important, but at least Luis Garcia isn't your ideal guy, but at least you have somebody there. I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel frustrated by the White Sox because they do have a good team. They don't spend the money to, we complained last year that they didn't spend the money to bulletproof their lineup. And this year they're not spending the money to add frontline players at positions of need.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll see what happens after the lockout. You never know.
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, but as it goes, you're just like, you're like, what, what are they going to do? Because there was fast and furious signings before the lockout.
Yeah, I mean, we all knew it was coming, and God knows when it's actually going to end.
And right field right now, you're looking at some combination of Andrew Vaughn, Adam Engel, Gavin Sheets.
Aren't they going to sign that Oscar Colas prospect or whatever that guy's name is? I think it's Oscar Colas, I believe.
I have not heard anything about it.
I mean, I know there were favorites to sign him going into 2022. I just don't know if he's going to be major league ready or not. I don't know much about
him. Oh, he's Cuban, so yeah, the White Sox will sign him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't know, but there's still some needs on this team, and they didn't make a big splash prior to the lockout, and God knows how long this lockout's going to go, because it doesn't seem like they're even interested in talking to the sides.
No, we're not going to hear anything until I don't know, January.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit. I question. Do you think spring training starts on time?
No.
Do you think the season starts on time?
I have my doubts. I can't say that it won't, but I'm a little skeptical.
Yeah.
They're so far apart on so many issues.
Yeah.
I think if they don't have things put together by late February, early March, we're definitely going to see that cut into the season. Because you need a spring training.
Yeah, but I mean,
you can abbreviate it, but think about it. Once this lockout ends, there's still a ton of guys you got to sign.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know. I think there'll be a season. Baseball cannot afford to miss an entire season. They simply can't. And they know they can't afford a COVID-like season either, like we had in 2020. That season was a joke. It was honestly a joke. They can't afford that again. So there will be a season, and it's going to be a pretty full season, I believe. I just am not fully optimistic it's going to be a completely normal one. It's going to start right on time. We'll see, though. We'll see.
Yeah.
I would be floored if they got this done before pitchers and catchers normally report.
That would be amazing. I don't want to see another lockout that impacts the season. It's not good for the game. It's not good for a game that I love that is slipping further behind NFL and NBA.
Yeah, exactly. This is already a stain enough on the sport. They don't need to push that further, and they should hopefully understand that what they're doing is only going to make it worse by delaying it longer and longer.
But I want to wrap the show up a little bit talking about, there's not a lot to talk about here with the Bulls and the Blackhawks, but I want to talk a little Bulls and Blackhawks. Which would you prefer to start with?
Well, can we talk about the ridiculousness? 10 players on the Bulls.
Yeah.
And it took all that convincing for them to stop one of their games and postpone it.
Yeah. I mean, Zach LaVine, Troy Brown, Ea DeSumo, Stanley Johnson, just Kobe White, DeMar DeRozan, Javonte Green. Not only the players, but Bill Wennington and Stacey King both are in the COVID protocol as well.
Yep.
So it is a disaster, and it took the Chicago Health Department getting in touch with the NBA to make the postponement happen. And I have a feeling that they threw their weight and said they were threatening to not let the Bulls host any basketball games. I have a feeling that was the case. And what's the NBA going to do if the city of Chicago goes, no, there's a COVID outbreak, we're not going to let you play basketball games?
Right.
Like, that's a logistics nightmare, because you're not going to make them forfeit the games. And what are you going to try to find neutral territory? So NBA is just probably like, well, shit, we're sort of stuck in a rock and a hard place here. And they got bullied into doing the right decision.
Yeah, it took long enough, but at least they're actually doing it. Because, I mean, you saw the last two games for the Bulls. It was tough to watch, seeing like half a roster basically trying to compete. They lost to the Heat, and they lost pretty good to the Heat. And who'd they play before? They lost that game to what
day?
Cleveland.
Oh yeah.
They lost in Cleveland, and they lost Miami, and neither game was particularly pretty. And you had a bunch of key guys out, and yeah, you were going to be playing the Pistons next. And I know they only have like 4 wins on the season, but still, you don't like going into NBA games with barely a roster, like literally bare minimum, and having to sign G League guys.
Yeah, that's what you're doing. You're signing G League guys. And it's not fair to the NBA fans. It's not fair to the Bulls. And the league has an issue on their hands that the NFL has been pretty good about avoiding, is the COVID outbreaks. But the NBA has not been immune to it by any stretch.
No, not at all. Well, and also keep this in mind too, and I know we're going to talk about them in a few minutes, but when the NBA was saying, no, we're not going to postpone your game, and the next thing you know, the very same team that shares their home stadium, the Blackhawks, they were going to play a game against Calgary, and Calgary's got guys on the COVID protocol, and they canceled right away. So maybe they thought, oh, well, if they're canceling, we got to do something.
And, you start to look at the list of the current NBA players in the COVID protocol, and there's a giant list of Bulls players, but Paul Millsap of the Nets. You've got players on the Heat, the Raptors, the Knicks, several Knicks, the Celtics, the Wizards, the Grizzlies. Charlotte has a bunch of people. Denver, Pacers, and you've gotten several teams that have multiple players. What I don't understand is why the NBA doesn't go, hey, listen, this is starting to get out of control. Let's press pause on the season, and you put a pause on everything. You restart on Christmas, so you get the 2 weeks, retest everybody, and you restart the season, and you hopefully clear up some of this mess, because you had the 76ers earlier had an outbreak, and it seems like it led to the Bulls having an outbreak, which seems it led to the Hornets having an outbreak. Like this is not isolated.
No, it's spreading like wildfire.
Yeah, you get in front of this. If you're the NBA, get in front of it. Postpone the season for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. You bring it back. You get your Christmas games. You get star players back. You put everybody on even playing surfaces. You're like, okay, we're not forcing team to play shorthanded like we already did with the Bulls. Everybody gets to come back, and it gives veteran players a break mid-season to get healthy. It gives time to get rid of COVID, and it still brings you back with your high profile Christmas games. Like I think it makes sense. The league just doesn't want to do it.
Could you imagine if they played on Christmas Day and like 3/4 of the stars that were going to play in those NBA games were out?
I mean, that's the risk that they run at this point.
Yeah, I mean, those Christmas games are like pretty much the basketball equivalent of the Thanksgiving football games. People invest their time to watch those games even on Christmas. So, you want those games to be well matched up. You don't want to have a bunch of guys out. And, I wonder if over the next few days they decide to do something. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. That's for sure.
Yeah. And there's, when you have your announcing staff and 10 players in the protocol, and they're all vaccinated. Everybody's vaccinated. Something crazy going on.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder too if this continues and you see more games being canceled or postponed, whatever. I wonder if other teams will say, hey, we might not have an outbreak yet, but we don't want to go anywhere where there potentially could be an outbreak. And they just say, we're not going to go.
I mean, that's a possibility. Is, what if Canada doesn't let the Bulls in?
Sorry, E. You can't come in here, E.
Take off, hoser. Because they play, I think they play in Toronto in a week or two. Like,
I know, yeah, they play Toronto at home on the 22nd. I know because I looked at tickets for that game, but I know they play in Toronto like a few days before, maybe later this week. I'm not sure exactly, but a trip to Toronto is coming up. I know that.
But who's to say that Toronto is going to let them in? Canada is very strict about that stuff.
Yes, they are.
It's just a risk. This is all a risk. And I'm not trying to be overly cautious. Just saying, you push the pause button, you clear it up, because you know what? Let's just say that, none of these players get super sick. I mean, Vooch got pretty sick, but
that wasn't COVID though.
Yeah, he got COVID.
It was COVID?
Yeah.
I thought it was something else.
Nope, he got COVID.
Then who am I thinking of? Somebody else was sick.
But
maybe it wasn't on the Bulls. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, let's just say that nobody gets really sick. Just a little sick. Why are fans going to pay money to go see the Bulls without DeMar DeRozan, without Zach LaVine, without, Kobe White?
Yeah, you're paying NBA tickets to watch the Windy City Bulls. You could get cheap Windy City Bulls tickets to see the Windy City Bulls.
Yeah, it just doesn't it makes more sense to just reset, pause, postpone things, and then get back. I mean, John Morant is another player that's a superstar, that's a young superstar that's out in the COVID protocol. So like get your shit right. And as far as the two games that the Bulls had this week, I mean, they were stinkers, but you're playing shorthanded. And you faced a good Heat team, didn't play well, and the Cavs game was just an anomaly. So I just can't fault them. Vooch looked absolutely terrible in that Miami game.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, it just wasn't a good game. You're shorthanded. You got guys playing extra minutes than they normally play because that's the only people you trust. And just guys get tired. And you're going to have a stinker every so often.
Yeah, the Miami game was one of those games where you say you didn't expect it to be all that great because of all the guys out, but it was still a tad disappointing with the effort. But, you move on, I guess.
You move on, and yeah, you're right. And they're going to postpone the next, I believe, 2 games.
Yes. I think the Toronto game is one of them.
Yeah. So you just, you try to clean up as much as you can and get guys healthy and get guys off the protocol and go from there.
Yeah, you want the team at full strength again. And I know the Bulls schedule is going to ease up a little bit, but, you still want the team going forward at least close to 100%. Obviously Patrick Williams, he's going to be out for a while. That's not COVID related, but, you look at the rest of the team and you say, all right, you need Levine back. You need Kobe White back because you need somebody on the bench. You need all those guys back and able to kind of get back on track. You were derailed a little bit with a few losses and you had the sicknesses. So just, you got to work past it now. And hopefully this can all materialize back to normalcy and the Bulls could get back to playing and winning again. Because other teams in your conference are, Milwaukee's finally playing better again. And, Miami might not be at the very top, but they're battling for the top with you. And so, you want to stick around, you want to keep the pace, and, you're 17-10 right now. It would just be a real shame if this kind of set things out of whack for a while, but hopefully it doesn't.
Yeah. But I want to wrap this up talking about the Blackhawks a little bit. And I'm not sure if you heard or not the comments that Mike Milbury made about interim coach Derek King.
I heard he said something, but I didn't really read into it because I never like listening to what Mike Milbury has to say. But what exactly did he say?
So apparently when Mike Milbury was a coach, and I'm using that term loosely because he was terrible.
This was with Boston, wasn't it?
I believe so. He had Derek King as a player.
Uh-huh.
And he put, I had him as a player. He was laconic, lazy, whatever you want to call it, even if he had some talent. But listening to him talk is, if he were a coach, I mean, talk about the opposite of inspiration. It's boring. And if I were Jonathan Taves, that'd be another reason for me to want to change the music.
Wow.
Bruh. Like, Mike Milbury is the worst. It's like, number one, who's listening to him. Number two is I can't speak anything about Derek King as the player. I don't remember him as a player. But boring? I don't think so. I mean, he's been a pretty, I don't know, interesting speaker in his tenure as the Blackhawks interim coach. I haven't found anything boring about him.
I mean, at the end of the day, he's an interim coach, so I don't really care how boring he is as long as he has the team playing better and, they're succeeding better at simplifying the playbook and executing better. I don't care how boring or exciting he is. What prompted Mike Milbury to go on that tirade?
I don't know, just sitting in his poopy diaper.
I guess that sounds about right.
But this week of Blackhawks has been a little rough, to say the least.
For the first time in a long time, I was legitimately pissed at a loss. And that was that bullshit David Camp Toronto garbage.
That was just a shitty bounce. And that, first of all, Toronto's a really good team. And you hung around with them.
The thing is, you outshot them, and you did outplay them in many aspects. Unfortunately, Lankinen wasn't that great in net.
Well, yeah, and you didn't just outshoot them; you outshot them by a lot. It was like 35 to 26.
Yeah.
You, it's funny what the path of that game. You start the game out with you take the opening lead and you go up 1-0. And then you fall down 4-1, and then you claw back to 4-4 before you have that David Camp, weird bounce play that went right to him with Lankinen not in the goal.
Can we just have one game where a former Chicago scrub doesn't, break our backs? Can we just have one game where that doesn't happen?
No.
Oh, that literally made me want to vomit.
And it's frustrating. And here's the thing: is a game like that, you're like, all right, it's a really good team. We clawed back. There's a lot of positives, and you try to sell it as that was a good loss.
You know what? I would have felt better had they gotten to overtime and they just lost in overtime. Let's say you get to overtime, you get a point, and the top guys 3-on-3 just cook you on the Toronto Maple Leafs. I could handle that. It wouldn't be my most desired outcome. Obviously, I want to win, but I could have handled that.
But here's the frustrating part: is you could chalk it up as a good loss, if such a thing exists. But from a moral point, a morale point, you're like, okay, we played them tough. We did a lot of the good things. But the bottom line is you got to look at the standings, and the Blackhawks, if they have any hope of making the playoffs, you need to win hockey games. You got to win. You can't settle for moral victories.
No, you can't. And I mean, frankly, I think playoffs are an absolute pipe dream at this point. But no, you're absolutely right. If you were going to have any sort of microscopic chance at making the playoffs, you need every point you can get.
Yeah, and you're just not getting those points. You're clearly playing much better than you were before Colleton got fired. Your record is indicative that you're a better team than that. It's just you dug yourself into a really big hole with Jeremy Colleton at the helm and playing mediocre record hockey is not overcoming a big deficit.
Right. Exactly. And look, you can look at some of the other things that happened to the Blackhawks over the week, and you had at one point a lead over the Rangers, and then they just cooked you again. I mean,
that game was just brutal. Artemi Panarin is great.
Yeah, him killing us isn't as bad because he's legitimately good. Really scary with Jujhar Khaira though. I was watching that, and that was brutal.
That was bad. And have you heard an update on him?
I know he's home out of the hospital. There's no timetable for his return, but it sounds like, he's doing okay, I guess. It could be a hell lot worse. He could still be in the hospital. He could be, barely with it, but he was sent home the day after, so that's good.
Yeah, I've heard that he's going to make a full recovery, but nobody said timetable. Like, is it, oh, you know what? It looked really scary and they wanted to make sure that there was nothing wrong and he's fine. He can play again in a few days. Or is it he'll make a full recovery, but right now he's got a severe concussion? Like, I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I don't know either, but you just hope they can continue to recover and get better, because I was really worried at one point.
Yeah, it was a little, you were a little nervous for him. And I have no ill will towards the guy, and you want to see him be, nothing else, at least not have a brain injury or something.
Right.
But yeah, that was the overwhelming, takeaway from that Rangers game is that hit. And do you think that hit was clean?
I don't think it was intentionally dirty. I don't. I mean, Kara did have his head down. I'm not blaming him for having his head down, but it was, shoulder to head. It was, I think it was more of a violent accident. I'm not sure if it was exactly legal, but I don't think it was dirty intentionally. It wasn't Rafi Torres. Rafi Torres was clearly trying to injure Marian Hossa.
Yeah, I don't think there was any I don't know.
He was just trying to make a play, and it hit him in the head.
He was clearly trying to make an aggressive hit. I don't think he was being malicious with it. I don't think he was trying to hurt anybody. But it was a combination of somebody trying to make a very aggressive hit and somebody that was not ready for it.
Right. Yeah, that's the way I'd put it too. He didn't leave his feet. He didn't use his shoulder and basically drive up into his head. It was a really bad collision. A really bad collision. I mean, go back and watch the Rafi Torres hit. If you want to look at something that was legitimately intentional, that was it.
Right. Absolutely. And then the other game that during the week was, a nice win against Montreal, shutout win. And it was the 500th win for Marc-Andre Fleury, which is
that was awesome.
Big. And it was the first goal of the season for Jonathan Toews.
About damn time. Damn time.
Yeah, that's saying it mildly.
Yeah, you ain't kidding. And that 500th win for Marc-Andre Fleury, it was really fitting. It was in his home Providence, and it was a shutout win. And you got to see the fans in Montreal put away their fan bias and say, you know what, we're going to stand and chant this guy's name and cheer him on, because we're looking at a future Hall of Famer and only the third goaltender ever to win 500 games. He's only the third. That's amazing.
And the other names are elite. Like, it's not just like Hall of Fame level. It is elite. So
yeah.
The other names that have 500 goalie wins are Martin Brodeur and Patrick Waugh.
And those are two guys who people are often debated as the greatest goaltenders ever. Like, when you hear the conversation of greatest goaltenders ever, oftentimes you will hear the names Martin Brodeur and Patrick Waugh.
And I saw somebody post something along the lines of, is there any shot that Marc-Andre Fleury could catch Martin Brodeur in number of goalie wins?
I don't think so.
Martin Brodeur has 691 career wins versus Marc-Andre Fleury's 500. 500 is a fantastic number, but it is not 691.
And do you know offhand how many Patrick Waugh had? Because I don't know if he'll catch him potentially.
I think he could. I mean,
How many does he have?
Fleury or Waugh.
Wow.
Waugh has 551.
Okay, Fleury. If Fleury plays a little while long, he could probably catch that.
If he plays
And-
next year, he can do it. But 691, that is
Yeah, that's
That-
yeah.
yeah, that's a lot. I mean, Fleury flirted with retiring before this season. Like, he's not going to play another 5 seasons.
Right. I mean,
Um,
really, what Fleury has like nothing left to prove. He's won 3 Stanley Cups. He's won 500 games. He's been an All-Star. He's been a Vezina winner. He's been a Jennings winner. He's done literally everything.
he was the inaugural goalie for a new franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's something cool too. Not everybody gets to do that.
Yeah, you were the inaugural goalie, having already won 3 Stanley Cup championships, and in your first season went to another Stanley Cup final.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
He's had a great career, and there's no shame in even if he never catches Patrick Waugh. Like, there is no shame in being third all-time goalies wins.
No. Considering how many goaltenders that have played in the NHL.
Yeah, here's the top 10 list. Is Martin Brodeur number 1, Patrick Waugh 2, Marc-Andre Fleury 3, Roberto Longo at 4, Ed Belfour at 5, Henrik Lundqvist at 6, Curtis Joseph at 7, Terry Sawchuk 8, Jacques Plant at 9, and Tony Esposito at 10. That's a hell of a list.
Roberto Luongo has that many wins, huh?
Yep. 489.
I couldn't stand seeing Luongo play when he was a Canuck, but honestly, looking back, it's kind of a shame he didn't win a Stanley Cup. I wish he could have gotten one. Guy was a hell of a player.
He was. I'm okay with it.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. I'm glad I'm glad the Canucks never won a Stanley Cup, but yeah. And what you also said, Ed Belfour, obviously a former Hawk great. Henrik Lundqvist, I really wish that guy got a cup.
It's funny. Everybody on that list is Canadian except for Henrik Lundqvist.
Yeah, that's wow.
Everybody
right.
else is Canadian.
Yeah, well, I wonder who's the winningest American goaltender of all time.
Ryan Miller,
Okay, that makes sense.
number 14.
Yep,
And-
that makes sense.
And the second most winning American, John Van Beesbrook. Then third is Tom Barrasso.
Man. I mean, Ryan Miller is obviously internationally known, whether, because of his great play in the NHL and in the Olympics.
Yep. And I'm looking, so Marc-Andre Fleury obviously is still an active goalie, and he's
Mhm.
third with 500. Do you know who the number 2 active goalie is in most career goalie wins?
In wins, Carey Price,
No.
Jonathan Quick.
Jonathan Quick,
All right.
343.
Is he still the starting goalie for LA?
I don't think so.
I mean, I remember all those playoff games the Blackhawks had with him in 2013, 2014.
The number 3 is active goalies. Sergei Bobrovsky.
All right, that makes sense. Yeah, I could see that. Did you hear? I think Ben Bishop had to retire because of injury issues.
No.
Yeah, I thought I saw that. Let me confirm that.
Yeah, here's the top 10 list for goalie wins for active players. Fleury, Jonathan Quick, Sergei Bobrovsky, Craig Anderson, Braden Holtby, Mike Smith, Yaroslav Halak, Brian Elliott, Semyon Varlamov, and Frederick Anderson.
Mike Smith and Brian Elliott are still playing, aren't they?
Yes.
Where is Elliott these days? I'll always think of him as a Blue.
Let's see.
Well, speaking of former Blues goaltenders, Jake
Tampa-
Allen was the
Tampa Bay Lightning.
Oh. All right. Well, former Blue Jake Allen was on the Canadiens when Marc-Andre Fleury faced him.
Let's see.
And where's Mike Smith these days? Is he still with Calgary?
He is with Edmonton.
Edmonton. Okay.
He is their backup goalie. He played in 3 games this year.
Okay. All right. He's got to be getting up there, right? He's been around a while.
He is like 38, 39.
Yeah, that's pretty old. And yes, Ben Bishop's career is over, unfortunately.
Yeah, let's see. Jonathan Quick, still with the Kings. He has played. He is 35, and he has played 15 games this season.
You know, it's funny. So many of those hockey teams that the Blackhawks faced off with, during their run or whatever, still in my mind, I think of those teams still being like that, but they're not. Like, I think of, when I think of the Kings, I still think of Mike Richards, Anze Kopitar, Jonathan Quick. Jonathan Quick is still there. When I think of Edmonton, I still remember when Nikolai Habibulin left the Blackhawks to go play there. And now Mike Smith is there, who I'll never forget as being the goaltender who killed the Blackhawks in 2012. And, things change. Things really do change. And, when you hear Roberto Luongo now retired with all those wins, and you think of some of those other goaltenders that we watched the Blackhawks face all those years, it's like, man, so many of those guys are gone now or with different teams. It's just crazy to think about.
Well, Craig Anderson, he was with the Blackhawks for a minute.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
Well, that was like what, 04?
The 02-03 season, the 03-04 season, and the 05-06 season.
So his captain was good old what's his face? Alexei Zamnov.
He wasn't so bad.
No, Alexei Zamnov was a good player. Did you know he's now the Russian head coach, I believe, for Team Russia?
Really?
Yeah. Let me look up the article. But no, I mean, like, the era sucked, but Alexei Zamnov was a hell of a hockey player. Let's see. Here we go. Let's see. Oh, here's another great name. Remember Ilya Kovalchuk?
Yes.
Let's see. Kovalchuk was named general manager of Russian Olympic Committee. Kovalchuk, blah, 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 blah. Here we go. I just lost it. Sorry. Okay, here we go. We'll be joined by the management group of Alexei Zamnov, assistant coaches Sergei Fedorov, Sergei Gonchar, and Alexei Kudashov, and goaltending coach Evgeny Nabokov. Remember him on the Sharks?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the Russians got a really nice collection of former players rounding up their management and their coaching. So yeah, Team Russia, you got Ilya Kovalchuk, Alexei Zamnov, Evgeny Nabokov, Sergei Fedorov. Nice little collection there.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
Yeah, here's Zamnov's career numbers. 807 NHL games, 719 points, 249 goals. Pretty good. Pretty good.
Even for a bad team.
Yeah. And obviously Sergei Fedorov is, one of the all-time great Russian hockey players to play in the NHL and winner of multiple Stanley Cups and other things. And Ilya Kovalchuk, do you remember when he signed that ridiculously long deal?
Yeah, it was
with
like
the
14
Devils?
years or something.
Yeah, and then he retired after 2 years or something like that.
I don't think he retired. I think he wanted to go play in Russia.
Well, didn't he have to technically retire to go play in Russia? I don't know exactly how that worked, but I remember him leaving to play in Russia.
Yeah.
Let's look up his
it was a 17-year, $102 million contract.
What? I mean, who would sign that?
It was one of those deals that they wanted to sign him, and it was really only an X number of years deal that because for the salary cap, they do it by average value, that they spread the money out over a lot of years that he wasn't actually going to play for the team. And so they were trying to backdoor the salary cap, and the NHL got pissed about it.
Well, and here's kind of the Ilya Kovalchuk situation, because you remember he went back to play in Russia. That was 2013. He played his last year with the Devils in 2013. He was 29 years old. Then 18-19, that's when he came back with the LA Kings. You remember that?
Yeah.
And then he played a little bit with Montreal and the Washington Capitals, and then he was done again. And he got off to a pretty good start in his career, but he had a 27 power play goal season, and then scored 52 total goals in 2006. That tied his career high. He had another 52 goal season in 2008. I mean, the dude was a monster. He was an unbelievably good player. And then the whole debacle happened when he went back to Russia. I just think, man, in his career, he scored 443 goals. Imagine if he didn't go back to Russia.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he wanted to play in Russia. That was the thing. I don't think he was ever happy playing in America.
Probably not. And I'm not knocking him for it. I'm just saying, imagine if that never happened, and say he from age 18 to age 36, 37 played straight in the NHL.
His numbers would be ridiculous.
Probably be flirting with 600 goals, I think.
But it's funny, when he signed that 17-year deal, based on his age, that would have put the contract ending when he was 44 years old.
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous, isn't it?
That is ridiculous. So ridiculous. I'm trying to read up on it again.
You'd consider him a Hall of Famer now, right? I feel like you kind of have to.
I mean, probably. Yeah, look at this. So, Kovalchuk and the Thrashers could not come into an agreement on an extension. The Thrashers general manager offered him 12-year, $101 million and 7-year, $70 million contracts, both of which he turned down. A few days after Kovalchuk rejected the second contract offer, the Thrashers said that they were going to trade him rather than lose him to an unrestricted free agency. And that's when he signed the stupid massive contract.
Yeah, because he, after spending all those years in Atlanta, he was traded over to the Devils.
Yeah. So,
and that was, if I remember correctly,
that
was around
17-year, $102 million deal to remain with the Devils.
Yeah.
The NHL blocked the contract saying that it circumvented the NHL salary cap. The arbitrator heard the NHL Players Association's appeal and ultimately nullified the deal.
Oof. Yikes.
So they couldn't do the 17-year, $102 million contract, and instead, what was accepted was a 15-year, $100 million contract.
That's still pretty nuts.
I don't know how. There's not that much difference in that.
I know. It's like, okay.
It's funny, yeah. You're not allowed to do those kind of things anymore. They're very very cognizant of that trickery.
It is interesting to look back at kind of the history of that, though.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. You know, it's. I mean, honestly, though, is you know, doesn't it? Sure, it benefits the team doing it in the short run, but in the long run, it hurts them. Their cap has a carryover how many years of this guy that's not playing. It's, it starts becoming the NHL Bobby Bonilla.
Oh, Bobby Bonilla. He will always have the best contract in history.
I love it, especially because it's the stupid Mets.
Yeah, of course. They would be the ones to do that.
Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think I've said my piece. I think we've given our listeners a good preview of your favorite new upcoming show, Ding Dong George.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. That's how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com. And you can follow Alex at AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all things Alex. And thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like Remember, New Yorkers, smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears! Oh, when the Bears go bearing down